You know, I've lived 73 years on this earth, and I thought I'd seen everything life had to throw at me. But last Tuesday, while the November wind rattled the windows of my little house in Portland, Oregon, I discovered something that turned my whole world upside down. My name is Margaret, Maggie to most folks, and I'm about to tell you a story I never thought I'd share with anyone. It started on an ordinary morning, well, as ordinary as mornings get when you're a widow living alone with a cat named Biscuit and a coffee maker that's older than most of my grandchildren. I was doing what I do every Tuesday, cleaning out the guest room closet, that black hole where forgotten things go to hide. My daughter Sarah had stayed with me the month before, after her husband Tom's accident. Nothing too serious, thank the Lord, just a broken leg from slipping on black ice in their driveway. But it meant she'd packed up the kids and camped out here while Tom recovered, and her brother, my son Michael, helped with the house modifications. Sarah's always been my organized one. Michael got my husband's scattered brain, God rest Frank's soul. But Sarah, she's lists and labels and everything in its place. So when I found a crumpled envelope shoved behind the winter blankets, my heart did a little flip. Sarah doesn't crumple things. The envelope wasn't sealed. Inside was a letter in my daughter's handwriting, dated 3 weeks ago. It started with 2 words that made my hands shake, "Dear Mom." Now you might think that's normal, but here's the thing. Sarah was going to mail this to me while she was staying in my house. Why would someone write a letter to a person whose coffee mug was sitting right next to theirs every morning? I sat down on the old hope chest Frank built 40 years ago, the one that still smells like cedar and memories, and I started reading, "Dear Mom, I'm writing this because I can't say the words out loud. Every time I try, they stick in my throat like I'm choking on all the years I've kept quiet." My first thought was affair. My second thought was illness. My third thought was worse. Had I done something? Had I failed her somehow? Do you remember the summer I turned 16? The summer you sent me to stay with Aunt Linda in Vermont while you helped Grandma recover from her surgery? Of course I remembered. Mom had broken her hip, and Frank was working double shifts at the mill. Sarah had complained about missing her friends, but Linda had a daughter the same age. I thought it would be good for her. I need to tell you what really happened that summer, what I've carried alone for 27 years. 27 years. My baby girl had been holding on to something for 27 years, and I never knew. The November sun was filtering through the curtains, making dust motes dance in the air like tiny ghosts. Biscuit rubbed against my ankle, sensing something wrong. I kept reading. Uncle Pete was there, Aunt Linda's husband. You always said he was a bit odd but harmless. Mom, he wasn't harmless. My stomach dropped like I'd stepped into an elevator shaft. The letter went on. She wrote about how it started small, comments about her clothes, her body changing, how he'd find excuses to be alone with her, how one night, when Linda was working the overnight shift at the hospital, he came into the guest room. She wrote, "I fought him, Mom. I did. But I was 16 and scared, and he was so much stronger. Afterwards, he told me that if I said anything, it would destroy the family. That you'd never believe me anyway because you'd always defended him when Aunt Linda complained. He said you'd blame me for leading him on." I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. My daughter, my sweet, strong Sarah, had carried this darkness alone because she thought I wouldn't believe her. But the letter wasn't finished. I never told Tom the whole truth. I told him I had bad experiences as a teenager, which is why intimacy was hard for me at first. But Mom, here's why I'm finally writing this down. Emma is turning 16 next month. Emma, my granddaughter. Sarah's oldest. She asked if she could spend the summer with Aunt Linda and Cousin Rachel. They're planning this whole girls' trip thing, and I said yes, Mom. I said yes because I didn't want her to think I don't trust her, or that I'm one of those overprotective mothers who sees danger everywhere. But then I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about myself at 16, and Uncle Pete, and how nobody knew, and... The letter ended mid-sentence. She'd stopped writing, crumpled it up, shoved it away, but she'd forgotten it here, in my closet, and now I held her secret in my shaking hands. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for Biscuit to give up on me and wander off to his food bowl. Long enough for the sun to move across the floor. Long enough for my phone to ring 3 times. Michael calling, then Sarah, then Emma herself, probably wanting to ask about Thanksgiving plans. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because here's what I realized, sitting there on Frank's hope chest. My daughter had protected everyone except herself. She'd protected me from guilt. Linda, their granddaughters never ever learn what it's like to swallow poison alone. But that's not where this story ends. Because what I discovered 3 hours later, when Sarah walked through my door with Emma by her side, changed everything I thought I knew about my family. To be continued.